Naranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Janavalabha Girivaradari Jayo Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Jajachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnu Pana Paramahamsa Parvachakacharya Shatara Shatar Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shilo Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Konti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaskritya Narachana Navattama Devi Sarasitya Santa Udira Hare Krishna. We are. I am really honored to have this privilege to prepare my mind to be absorbing Krishna in this way. So please, I humbly ask for your good wishes. This ends well for all of us. We are on the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, text number 12. This chapter is called The Cause of All Causes. Word by word. Tasmai Namaha Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhimahi Yat Mayaya Durjayaya Mam Vadanti Jagat Gurum. Is there any specific melody? Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhimahi Yanmayaya Durjayaya Mam Vadanti Jagat Gurum. Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhimahi Yanmayaya Durjayaya Mam Vadanti Jagat Guru. Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhimahi Yanmayaya Durjayaya Mam vadanti jagat guru. Tasmai namo bhagavate Dhimati.
Tasmai namo bhagavate
Namo bhagavate
Vasudevaya dhimahi Janmaya durjaya Mam vadanti jagadgurum
Tasmai namo bhagavate Vasudevaya dhimahi Maya durjaya Mam vadanti jagadguru
Tasmai namo bhagavate Vasudevaya dhimahi Janmaya ya durjaya Mam vadanti jagadgurum
Tasmai namo bhagavate Vasudevaya dhimahi Janmaya durjaya Mam vadanti jagadgurum
Matajis. So word by word. Tasmai unto him. Namaha. I offer my obeisances. Bhagavate unto the personality of Godhead.
unto the personality of Godhead.
Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya
unto Lord Krishna. Himahi. I do meditate upon him. Yat by whose Mayaya potencies. Durjayaya invincible. Mam unto me. Vadanti they say. Jagat the world. Gurum the master. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I offer my obeisances and meditate upon Lord Krishna Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, whose inconceivable potencies influence them, the less intelligent class of men, to call me the Supreme Controller. Purport. As will be more clearly explained in the next verse, the illusory potency of the Lord bewilders the less intelligent to accept Brahmaji, or for that matter any other person, as the Supreme Lord. Brahmaji, however, refuses to be called this, and he directly offers his respectful obeisances unto Lord Vasudeva, or Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, as he has already offered the same respect to him in the Brahma Samhita 5.1. Ishvara Paramam Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. The Supreme Lord is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord in his transcendental body, the ultimate cause of all causes. I worship that primeval Lord Govinda. Brahmaji is conscious of his actual position, and he knows how less intelligent persons, bewildered by the illusionary energy of the Lord, whimsically accept anyone and everyone as God. I, a responsible personality like Brahmaji refuses to be addressed as the Supreme Lord by his disciples or subordinates. But foolish persons, praised by men of the nature of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, feel flattered to be addressed as the Supreme Lord. Why such persons take pleasure in being addressed as God, or why such persons are addressed as God by foolish admirers, is explained in the following verse. Once more the verse. Tasmai namo bhagavate vasudevaya dhimahi yanmayaya durjayaya mam vadanti jagadgurum. I offer my obeisances and meditate upon Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, whose invincible potencies influence them, the less intelligent class of men, to call me the supreme controller. Om Agyanatimirandasya Ganajana Shalakaya Chakshum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Bhishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupam Kadanmayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamshcham Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Vishivishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tamta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vindavaneshwari Vrishabha Nusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebho vaishnavebho namo namaham. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Chandramalu Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashate Shatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it's really interesting how when you start to kind of study Srimad Bhagavatam verse by verse, and then actually each chapter is, really valuable, really important. When you just read through, it's like, what happened in the last chapter, I'm not sure. So we are in the chapter where Narada Muni we approach his father Brahma, and he's asking about the cause of creation, of where do you get this power, where do you get these potencies, where it all comes from. And Brahma is answering his son. Many people in the Vedic culture, in the Vedic culture, they ever say that Brahma is the supreme. Actually, I even saw maybe in some cartoons on YouTube, which is speaking like, who is the supreme, Shiva, Brahma, or Vishnu, and they're kind of competing or something. I don't know. So people can be bewildered. Who is the supreme? Because we hear one information, the second information. But then you have Srimad Bhagavatam, Amala Purana, which is actually kind of the nectar, which was actually made because what's Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva. But Vyasadeva, when he wrote the four Vedas, when he wrote the Mahabharata, he was still not satisfied. So these came as like cream, the most important scripture that we can take shelter of. We can actually get the essence. We can not be bewildered by the flowery language of the Vedas, because the Vedas have like a lot of They are actually written for the people in ignorance, in the passion and the goodness. And for ignorance, they say like, okay, for you, Shiva is the supreme. For you, it's like, Kali is the supreme because you cannot go beyond that. So just, be fixed in that. But then we come to the scriptures which Brahma himself said like, oh, no, I'm not the supreme. No, Narada, please. No, I'm not the supreme. The Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna is the supreme. So who is bewildered by that? By this? Who is bewildered by this sentence? It's clearly stated here. But Srila Prabhupada states here that people with less intelligence are bewildered by the potency of the Supreme. Illusionary potency of the Lord bewilders the soul. So now question asks like, why does she does that? When the souls are bewildered by the illusionary energy of the Lord, they accept everyone and anyone as God. So everything is possible. Everything is like, So it's interesting. And many times in the scripture, Srila Prabhupada mentions this less intelligent man. So how to understand this less intelligent man? Are these people that cannot understand the Supreme? Or the people that just don't want to know the Supreme? Or people that didn't just know who is the Supreme? What means this less intelligence? So why are people less intelligent? Why would you say, what is the cause of the people in this current life to be less intelligent? What is the cause of that? Insincerity, material desires, worldly concept of life.
That he puts the living entities, those who are envious of him,
Mm.
he puts them further, he makes them sink further and further into the darkness of ignorance. So as time increases and their envy increases,
Yeah.
he puts them further.
So yes, envy, isn't it? Envy, desires, this is making us less intelligent. But the question is, what are the aspects of intelligence? It's kind of a gives us just an inner kind of a understanding of it, because the intelligent is actually a capacity of the mind to deliberate about things. So we have this kind of a new kind of a IE processing something, do these modern IEs that kind of starts to kind of contemplate, it starts to kind of it can solve different problems, and they say that it's really intelligent. So what is this program made of? First, it is made of the computing power to analyze different information. So this is the computing power, the deliverance, the possibility to deliver. Some people have more possibility to deliver, some people don't, right? So if we were a jnani last life, we still have this impression of deliverance and mental speculation. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, it can be we need to feed our mind constantly with information, read constantly, because our mind is constantly deliberating something. And if you're not feeding him with Shastra, then he's being fed by all other nonsense, and then he starts to speculate. So this is one, deliberation. The second thing that intelligence really use is discrimination by intelligence, which, how do you discriminate?
By the knowledge.
Knowledge. That's it. So you have knowledge and we have deliberation. So you have the potency to deliberate, but you have to have information. Because you have the most biggest IE, which can kind of process many information, but if it doesn't have any source of data of information, what can he analyze? So these kind of computing powers are so powerful because they have all the data from the internet, everything written, even Srila Prabhupada's books, which is really cool. So yeah, we were just kind of a million times we were thinking like, what will happen if the computer was going to start to think, what is the meaning of life and how to make everyone happy? Maybe he will start killing people. No, he will come to Shastra and Srila Prabhupada's book and he will see, everybody has to become Krishna conscious. So maybe the IE will start helping people to become Krishna conscious, because this is the only way that people can become happy. So let's hope for the best for that. So in the same way, we also we have deliverance, we have knowledge. So if people are less intelligent, what is actually they're missing? Probably knowledge. This is what they are missing. So what is the reason why why don't they have the knowledge this lifetime? Okay, this is like this is outside the material world. There are devotees jumping in and just messing up the messing up the laws of karma. But why people do not have the good knowledge? They don't want it. But where is it coming from? Ignorance. And why are they in ignorance this lifetime?
Bodily conception of mind.
Why? Why are they in bodily conception of life? We were all Brahmas. First thing that we came, we were Brahmas. So material desires. So actually, karma. Because of the activities of past life, what is like the next. So the activities we do this life determines what kind of life we will have the next, right? Which means what kind of body, what kind of what kind of knowledge we will get, what kind of family we will get. So all of these things come from the activities we do now. So if you try to forget Krishna, if you try to enjoy material things, we are actually saying we don't want to learn about this Vedic knowledge. We don't want this knowledge. So the next life, if you are totally absorbing material things, next life you will not even get the knowledge. So that's why it's really frightening to get away from the Vedas, because it's actually you have to have knowledge to get to get liberation. But if you don't, if you just kind of get any concept of spiritual life, so if you're running away from it, the next life you will not even get it because you said that you don't want it. But then there are devotees. Then there are devotees. So the knowledge, without knowledge, people can be really smart. And we see like lots of these, PhDs, and they have a big capacity to deliberate about things. But what are they delivering? Nonsense. They're delivering about material things. And even like Srila Prabhupada says that, I read it in Srila Bhagavatam 7th canto, because people do not take shelter of a spiritual knowledge, they have to deliberate about so many nonsense in the material world. So, you will learn like, this much of spiritual things and just, go with life and just, perfect your life. Or you have to learn about many, many different things from material world and just kind of blow your mind with those things. Because many of these things that the general people do, the scientists are doing, it's so complicated. Because it is, and it's actually not useful in the end. It just complicates things. So the knowledge is important. So less intelligent male, okay, they don't maybe have deliverance, maybe they're like more like Shudra types and they don't have like the deliverance, the possibility of deliverance, but they don't have the knowledge whatsoever. So they actually don't. But we do come to people, right? We give them the books. They read the books and they still, what the hell? Okay, I just give them knowledge. So what's the catch? There is one more factor that intelligence uses. Accepting, yeah.
That the mind accepts and rejects.
Okay, yeah, it's like somewhere there. Discrimination based on, so we have bunch of information. You have bunch of information, so the IE has a bunch of information in his data. And he has to prioritize which data is more important. And how is our brain functioning? How does he determine which information is more important? Because we say like, we can say that, the soul exists. Oh, no, scientists say that the soul doesn't exist. So he knows all the both information, right? He knows like, okay, there is information we have a soul and there's information we don't have a soul. So why does one person accept one and why other person accept the other? Based on? Huh? Oh, interesting. We'll come to that.
All the different knowledge they have, they'll interpret things based on all different mental contexts.
Okay, I like it. I will come to that. Perfect. But now, what is the first step of Bhakti Yoga? Faith. Intelligence prioritize information based on faith. We have them then. Based on faith, we have on information. Interesting enough, isn't it? So this faith That's why, let's say we know that we are not this body. We know that, we shouldn't do this. We should follow four regulative principles as a devotees. And we still kind of sometimes, maybe I can, go to the, take pizza sometimes here and there or something, some kind of a thing. So we know that we shouldn't do that. So how come that we are still doing that? How come that we are still maybe maybe scientists are not so, so wrong or something? Why are we doing this? Because we still have faith in that. We have still faith in that. Why? Because we had first they convinced us so many times. They showed us, we had a research in Zagreb, we made a research I had made a research because I had a lecture about the atoms. They're showing us this atom, you have these things, and it's things are going all around, all this from the core and everything. But you don't know that they never saw the atom. Scientists never saw an atom. Why? Because the atom is smaller than the smallest particle of light. So you cannot bounce the light from the atom to actually see it. So actually they never saw the atom, but you constantly get this is atom, this is atom, this is atom, this is atom. It's okay, this is atom, I will just accept it, I will just accept it, because there is the difference between, we trust the science community because the science community looks like it's universal and it's because they can make vacuum cleaners, that means they don't know the purpose of life. Because they can make one thing work, or they know about the universe, everything, for sure. Because and the science, the most crazy thing about science, it's not unified whatsoever. It's whatever they put the research on, they have 10 researchers that are just denying this one. It's crazy. But we somehow or another we started to believe and have faith in all of these things. So now we are trying to believe and have faith in the Vedas. Shraddha, sadhusanga. So we are trying to get this Shraddha, get this knowledge, so that it's not that we only have knowledge, because we already have knowledge, but to actually believe in it. So this is one thing that really these last 2 weeks, I've really got a Shraddha from Mahotsaha Prabhu about distributing Srimad Bhagavatam, says that actually somebody will take it. He gave me lots of Shraddha, lots of faith that people will take this thing. People will take it, you just have to be there, present it, and be surrendered, and Krishna will give you intelligence. So, less intelligent men, how do they actually act? There is one point about how did Brahma, it's really interesting, just to have a conversation, just to listen to this conversation with Narada and Brahma, not even seeing them, but just listening to what they are saying, you can actually see how they act. You can see their qualities. So Brahma, how did he act when somebody called, when somebody called him the Supreme? How did he act?
He
Denied it.
And he was embarrassed.
Embarrassed. Oh, that's interesting. Embarrassed, Spiritual master. Yeah. His spiritual master, which is Sri Krishna himself, which is cool. Yeah. So isn't it? He was humble. What does mean humble? What is one of the definitions of humility? What is the definition of humility?
Ready to offer all respect to others.
Yes. And not accept anything for yourself. Because this is intoxicant. Being honored, being honored and accepting the honor. It's of course, devotees, Krishna likes to glorify their devotees, so you cannot avoid being glorified. He's like Mahotsava, he's finished. Wherever he goes, everybody will know him. So he cannot avoid it. But will he accept it or not? This is the thing. And because we are getting intoxicated with things, this is poison for us to accept it. So we are always passing it to the spiritual master. We are trying to show back the respect, and also to forward this respect forward. Humility, gratefulness, and respect to others. This is the responsible person. Responsible person acts like this. And he's conscious of his actual position. This is really interesting. How does foolish people act? You're praising them and accept it. Yeah, so how? So what? He enjoys it, right? He's flattered, Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. Right. Endeavors for it, even. Endeavors for it. Falsely proud. And he said that it's a nature of dogs, hogs, camel, and asses. So tell me if somebody. So now I was actually kind of trying to research in which way the dog is foolish, in which way the hog is foolish, in which way camel and asses are foolish. So if anyone knows, maybe, in which way, let's say, the dog is foolish. Unclean, okay? Chase his own tails. Yeah, barks unnecessarily, like, right? One of the things that dog, he accepts the master, right? He doesn't discriminate what kind of master it is. Like, only if he like feeds me, and and give me shelter, I will accept him as my master. Doesn't matter if if he actually is a master or not. So this is like a dog mentality. How about hogs?
They eat anything.
No, eat anything. No discrimination. Eat anything. They're attached to the pleasures. The pleasures?
It's a hog.
No, hogs. Hogs. What the hogs do more? Like, what are
They
they?
have sex with their mother and sister.
So no discrimination whatsoever, right? Like, oh, anything, including, yeah, garbage. Less intelligent people lack discrimination and are willing to accept anything as truth without properly analyzing or understanding it. Really interesting. Camels suck their own blood. Okay. They eat cactus. Okay. And they are, what kind of animals they are?
Desert animals. So
Hmm?
desert.
Desert. Okay. Okay. Very burden. Are they like what kind of mindset they have?
What kind of what?
Mindset. Yeah. Okay. And they're also kind of stubborn, aren't they?
So they're stubborn.
Stubborn. Haters. Less intelligent are like so stubborn, and they are actually storing water. So we could say they can kind of say that they're storing their wealth as well. And they're stubborn with their own when or their own kind of a thinking. And asses, what we say about the asses?
Same thing. They care. The beasts of burden. Although they can get grass anywhere, they think only the washerman can give them grass. And they bray. They think their braying is very awesome, but it's actually not. And when they have sex, they get kicked by the she ass in the face.
So how can we kind of connect it to ourselves, like ourselves, but less intelligent people? How they're foolish in this way? They're working hard for nothing, huh? Right? So in the same sense, we are trying to help these less intelligent men. We are trying to help these less intelligent men, and the glories of Krishna consciousness in this regard is that Bhagavad Gita, like in Srimad Bhagavatam, if you just read these two things, and in Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned in the first verse. In the purport, it's mentioned that Bhagavad Gita has everything. You can find in Bhagavad Gita everything what is written in the other scriptures, and even something that is not, even more. And we can see that people that were really taking shelter of Bhagavad Gita was really reading Bhagavad Gita. And for us, it means like that we are regularly reading Bhagavad Gita, not only like once. We read it once, twice. It's like it's a habit. We are breathing, and it's the same thing. You are just reading Bhagavad Gita every day. Few pages, is it 2 pages, 5 pages, 12 pages? 1 chapter, whatever. It's good for you. We will just get so much nourished. We will increase our faith. Then we will kind of establish our knowledge and deliberation and even the possibility to liberate will increase. Especially with these discussions, we are actually trying to get to deliverance. Because why? Deliverance is important. Because
It leads to realization.
leads to realization. Exactly. So yeah, I would I would then just conclude with we have amazing process, Srila Prabhupada. He so mercifully came to give us this process, gave us this knowledge, gave us this faith, gave us the process, and even the sadhana. He gave us the way of lifestyle that will increase our deliberation, that will establish our intelligence to be stable, not to lose it. He gave us 4 regulative principles so that we do not be sinful, so that we do not lose the intelligence, because by material enjoyment we lose intelligence. And he also gave us the possibility to share the knowledge with others. We can do it through also online preaching as much as possible, and there are different ways we are trying to approach people, give them this knowledge, so that they actually also have and to increase their faith in the knowledge, so that they actually start deliberating, that they actually start to be more intelligent. And one great way of doing this is like the books, to give them books, to call them out, to read the books, to read with them books, to yeah. So everyone who was trying this out, he knew the importance of it. So yeah, thank you very much. I would like to open up for comments, questions, jokes, and everything what you see apparent.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. When Lord Brahma is calling the less intelligent class of men, he is referred to Narada Muni, because Narada Muni called him the supreme controller. But Narada is very intelligent. How he can call like that, you know? Indirectly, he called him the less intelligent of men.
Mm-hmm.
Is right?
Well, one thing that comes to my mind, at least, it reminds me of when I think in the Vedic culture you have a daughter-in-law and you have a mother, like a mother of the son. And the mother, if she wants to kind of teach something, the daughter-in-law, like daughter-in-law, yeah, if she wants to teach the daughter-in-law, she will chastise the daughter. Even though the daughter knows all of these things, she will kind of show by her, like on her example, to teach the daughter-in-law. So in the same way, Brahma is actually kind of chastising Narada, even though he's kind of understanding all these points, so that he can actually prove points to us and everyone who is reading. So this is like one kind of a way of understanding that. I don't know if any other.
It's also the duty of the spiritual master to correct the disciple and to find fault with the disciple. So it's his duty also. And in the previous purport, two purports ago, Prabhupada gives the example of how even Arjuna seemed to be an illusion. And even though Narada Muni saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his past life, he still asks this question. Why the Supreme Lord puts these devotees like this under so-called illusion is because to teach others, like you were saying. So that's one of them.
And also, if like a spiritual master says to a qualified disciple, you're like, oh, you're such a rascal, it doesn't mean that he's really a rascal. But it's like, spiritual master always pushes us to go forward, to go beyond our limits, and to humble us. So we should take it like relatively, the sentence. Yeah, thank you for the question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the class. I was listening.
I'm so sorry.
On live. Sorry for not being on time. So, regarding your point about, this is why people have faith in scientists, is because, they manufacture vacuum cleaners and other things like that. Several years ago, I think probably 2015 maybe, 2014 actually. Yeah, in 2014, you know what? I was watching my godbrother senior god brother, Priya Govinda Prabhu, was showing me a video that was made by Richard Dawkins, one of the big atheists. And the video is about him trying to explain how creation happened, how the universe was created. And, he has to explain this complex, idea of this Big Bang, where time and space all originated from the singularity. So he's trying to explain. So the interesting thing, the way he begins the video, is he says, science has done so much benefits for us. Here, we have cars, we have trains, we have airplanes, we have air conditioning, we have this. It was very interesting. And Priya Govinda was just see how he's establishing his, his authority. Yeah. Because otherwise, you have to explain the singularity. What is the singularity? And then he starts explaining the singularity. He says singularity is where everything is compressed in this one singular point. But we cannot say that there was anything outside this point because space did not exist. Yet this point exists. It doesn't have a boundary, yet everything is compressed in this one singular point. So he's trying to explain that it is a point, but it has no boundary, which means it's infinite. But it's this point, and he says it's a plasma. It's a plasma. And so what is this plasma? He said, space and time. It is very difficult to say what exactly. We cannot say that the singularity contained atoms because atoms did not exist at that point of time. So what does it contain? He said, we don't know. It is just a real compression of time and space in everything that we know. And it's like, and see, the thing is, he's making this completely, like, if you were to just hear this, you would be like, what are you talking? Yeah. Yeah, but then he has to prelude that with all this fluff about how they created, air conditioners and airplanes and things like this, because that's how they established this. Otherwise, it's like, So it's interesting because this is how they influence the innocent public, with these kind of things, and therefore, sometimes even within Krishna consciousness, right? Sometimes build big temples, and because less intelligent. I mean, the innocent public are influenced by some level of opulence, some show of power, show of opulence, and it's part of the religious culture to show that, which is why actually
really big, right? Churches are really, really big.
Yeah, and this is actually Srila Prabhupada's strategy with establishing farm communities. Because if you can show that people can live happily, they don't have to work for 10 hours, 12 hours a day, and all their needs are provided, and you can live simply, you can grow your own food, you can live healthy, and you can live happy, where there's proper family values, and children are taken care, and there's also, of course, there's spiritual culture. And Prabhupada said millions will flock to our farms, because it's what people are looking for, ultimately. Anyways, there's other ways in which Prabhupada also did that, but in farm communities, there's a lot of emphasis on providing for your needs, which is just material, actually. Growing your own food, sew your own cloth, like this it's actually material. Some points, but thank you for the class. Hare Krishna.
Maybe if Mahotsava or devotees would like to comment on this.
Their foolishness is inconceivable.
I like how you're talking about the ways in which these different animals are unintelligent. I thought that was a nice way to break down the purport. You spoke about how the dog accepts a master, not based off the master's quality of character or anything, but just based off of getting one's subsistence from the master. So this can also be related to, the scientists. They produce vacuum cleaners and AC, therefore they're like the masters, so.
I just was gonna ask. So you're mentioning like like those who are away from the Vedas, but then we also see like away from the Vedas, they're obviously more difficult to come to. But we also see those who are like engaged in so-called knowledge, like the Ishopanishad said, and then Prabhupada would often describe those like Veda, Vadarata, with those who are like not as they accept the demigods as the thing, as the object of life and the goal of life to worship them. Then it's described that it's like there's those who are engaged in ignorance, but then they're even further than that. It's like that's how Ishopanishad describes. So maybe you could explain.
Interesting.
I can maybe quote it exactly and then. Show 10. So 9 actually. So andaham tama pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuyayavate tamo ya u vidyayam ratah. Those who engage in the culture of nation activities shall enter into the darkness region of ignorance. Worse still are those who engage in the culture of so-called knowledge. So and then Prabhupada mentions in the purport later that ya'u vidyayam rataha. So those who are engaged in Veda, but they don't have a proper conception.
So thank you. I kind of one thing that comes really to my mind is what Srila Prabhupada, like Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, that one who wants to worship the demigods, I give them the intelligence and faith to worship them. So it's not about that they don't, we maybe see many like, Hindus, pious Hindus, they are like really attached to the worship of their demigods. And they come and say, like, Krishna is the supreme. So the thing is that their faith still is not, their faith is still really strong in the demigods. So they have the knowledge and they are really kind of close, and they actually have, they can even really fastly understand Krishna consciousness if they would like to shift it, if they actually have the consciousness. That's why I see that being like a pure devotee is what they do. They actually give you faith in the process, and this is like really, really important, really kind of, it's not only the knowledge, maybe me in the Kanishta level, I can maybe come and say, look, no, Krishna is the supreme everything. I can maybe give them the knowledge and maybe I can reference, but who will give them faith? Pure devotees, by their, their effulgence, their character, their, So I would say that we need to think about the shifting of the faith into, and then they can be really close. Because why? They have experience of the demigods. They have they saw the results. They were worshipping Shiva. They are now rich and everything. So, they see it here. It's like the scientists as well. It's like, look, I have, we mixed two chemicals. Now something happened. This is because now I will explain you tattva, behind this. Like they are not actually sure. They change the tattva constantly, isn't it? It's so funny, isn't it? When the scientists come and say like, this is absolute truth, and then 5 years, no, that was not true. But this is the absolute truth. Now we have got it. At the 5 years, this is you have to absolutely believe us in this one. This is the absolute truth. But the one thing about absolute truth is that it actually never changes. So we are missing like, so it's kind of like missing the whole the whole point. It's just incredible. And I see people still believe them. But then we have to be there and being even like how the Martin Luther King said, like the one who wants peace have to be more better organized than the one that wants war. So we should be even better organized than the people that want Maya. We should be more organized and even more eager for them to come to Krishna consciousness than their eagerness to stay in Maya. So yeah, I like that's why I like your atmosphere here, and I hope that it will be spread all around the world. Yeah, please.
I was thinking about, that guy whose house we went to, and like we gave him the Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita and all this,
Yeah.
and he was going to give a big donation to help the temple and all this, but because I went and he had Sai Baba on his altar, and I basically blessed him with it, and I gave him the nectar. I just told him how it's all bogus. Remember, I told him it's a concocted deity.
Yeah.
Should not, why you worshipping and all this and all that.
Yeah.
Because he didn't like what I said. He just paid for the price of the books and that was it.
Okay.
But he could have done so much more. His brother also was so clearly insincere. All these things. Why? Because they refuse to accept it. Everything is offered to them on a silver plate, but they still refuse to accept it. But because somehow they're associated with the Vedic culture, they had enough sense that, okay, a sadhu came to my house and he gave me knowledge. Therefore, at least let me remunerate him for that.
Very
You know.
nice.
But these scientists, they will just, like, they have no, like, because they are just so completely envious of anything to do with Vedic culture.
Yeah,
They don't even have the good fortune of, accepting Prabhupada's books even. It's just sad.
But then you come and you trick them, and they
we,
still take it.
we try to, not all the time.
Yeah, they trick them, so it's amazing. Like, you know, Prabhu, please.
Was your question answered?
Like one thing that I would like to add is like my father. I was speaking about my father. I was speaking about the Vedic knowledge and everything and how this. And he said like, but for me, like this, like these, general things you have more sense. But what does it mean have more sense? What does it mean? It actually means that the information I already have is kind of in line with the things that are said in the general public. It's more in line what I already have in my mind. So it's let's say this Sadhguru or whatever. So if you really want to brainwash someone, you have to give them like a lots of information. You have to bombard him like, this is what scientists are doing. They're doing it for years and years. The demons are doing this for years and years. It's like preparation, 50 years preparation, so they can actually, have everyone brainwashed. Why? Because, you have to do it year by year, giving you so many information that the amount and faith in this information that it overcomes the information of the Vedas. So, so it's like, it's really, I really like how Vishnu Prabhu said that, when we come, we cannot, they have like a big information about sense gratification is amazing and you should, do it more. And then we are, and we come with information, no, sense gratification is really dumb. So sometimes, if it doesn't connect with something they already have in the head, in intelligence, something that is logical, like, yeah, actually, like, sometimes people have like this, maybe the opposite of what people are doing is actually good. Maybe let me listen to it. So if we bunch with like just the opposite information they have, sometimes it's too much, because they cannot connect this now. No, Sadhguru is God and everything, and I already have experience with him. You cannot say it's bogus now, because what is it bogus means? We have to define what bogus means. We have to kind of define all these words. We have to define what we mean by that. And then he will be like, oh, okay. You mean bogus, like in the sense you will not give me the highest result. That with Krishna I will have the highest result. With this personality I will get some just this. Then it will really help him a lot to understand what does it mean bogus. We kind of throw out the words and they are just kind of have to understand these words. So it's sometimes. Yeah, sorry.
On that point, the question I had before. So, I mean, you talked about change of faith and how they, the pure devotee can do that. But are these people who are engaged in these, culture of so-called knowledge, they, they're still worse than, those who are engaged in the culture of nation activities.
Mm-hmm.
So, do they glide down lower? Like how to understand that? Because they engage in Veda, but at the same time they're engaged in so-called knowledge. So they don't have a proper knowledge. So Ishopanishad is saying they're worse. So do they glide down further? But then we understand from like Shastra that Vedic culture, Varnashram is meant to bring them up. So how to understand this?
I mean, Varnashram is ultimately for the satisfaction of the Lord, like Vishnu or Krishna. Mm. So if you're following the Varnashram and not satisfying the Lord, then are you really following the Varnashram? Or you're just kind of doing the cultural thing? So it's interesting, isn't it? What's your thought?
It says in 11th canto, if you execute Varnashram duties, but you don't worship Vishnu, you will fall down to hell.
Yeah.
I don't know the Sanskrit.
Yeah.
That's there.
So is it like a low, right? Anyone? Maybe, I don't know.
Mayavadis.
Yeah.
The followers of the Vedas, the followers of Varnashram. But, they read the Vedas and this and that, but they will never come to the platform of devotional service. Those who are engaged in avidya, what is nescience? Avidya, nescience, just refers to mundane knowledge, material knowledge, to maintain one's body, maintains one, and things like that. Dharma, artha, kama. This is especially artha and kama is nescience. So just to be economic development and sense gratification. This is nescience. This is what people are doing here today. Scientists is all avidya. But then you have vidya, which comes through dharma. But why is it that then those who, the so-called knowledge, vidya, followers of so-called knowledge, because these so-called, for instance, so-called Mayavadis, they're actually going all the way to moksha, but they are insulting the Supreme Personality of Godhead by twisting the Shastra and saying that he doesn't exist, or basically his form doesn't exist, and that they are God, and all this kind of like craziness. So they're worse because those who are in avidya, they can be brought to Krishna consciousness. Whereas those who are Mayavadis and who are deeply involved in specifically Vedas, meaning they are studying Vedanta, they are studying Shariraka Bhashya of Shankaracharya, Sarvanash. They can never, it's almost impossible for them to come to devotional service. Therefore, they are in a worse situation. Andam tamaf pravishyanti. They enter the worst. I mean, okay, yes, the avidya is already worse, but then this is such a situation that almost they can never be saved. So, I mean, of course, always when we hear in Vedic culture, they go to hell, they're doomed. Nothing is eternal in the complete sense. There's always hope, but it's almost eternal to the extent that you can never see where the end is. Yeah.
Like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, there's a verse basically talking about what you said, that the karmis, even the karmis are better than these kind of Mayavadis, because they have hope. And the point is that the Mayavadis are envious of the principles of pure devotional service, whereas the karmis are just not aware of it. They're into sense gratification. I mean, so what? You're into sense gratification and, you just become an animal or something like that. But, here you're like actively offensive to Krishna. So what's worse? Being a sense gratifier and offended to Krishna. Therefore, even the Sahajyas are better than the Mayavadis. Even the Sahajyas. Can you believe it? So.
That's a good.
This verse comes before, this verse, Vayuranilam Amritam Atedam Bhasmantam Shariram Om Kratosmara Kritam Smara Kratosmara Kritam Smara. And then there is that verse, Purusha Soham Asmi. Yosavasav Purusha Soham Asmi. How does it begin? No. Okay. So there it said, so asav Purusha Soham Asmi. So that verse, the Mayavadis like that very much. Shankaracharya. Pusha Nekarshe Yama Surya Prajapatya Vyuha Rashmin Samuha Tejo Ete Rupam Kalyana Tamam Tatte Pashyami Yosav Asav Purusha Soham Asmi. So this, now Isha Upanishad is one of the Upanishads that are commented by Shankaracharya. And, they love that verse, Soham Asmi. And they declare that, they say that because that it says that, therefore we are God. But this verse comes before that to indicate that if you are going to twist the Vedas and think that you are, you're Krishna and you have this conception, and now you're going to twist the whole Isha Upanishad to suit your, to present your point, then you're in a worse. You're worse than the people who are criticized in the Isha Upanishad as being going after avidya. So it comes in that order, but they skim right over it.
You call it so close and so far away.
Yeah. That's the reason why that's explained there.
Is it okay? Thank you very much. Devotees for the Mataji's, yeah? Any? No? Thank you very much for a lovely discussion. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.